Today, in our 5-minute clip, I would like to read you a section of the book, One Simple Thing, A New Look at the Science of Yoga and How It Can Transform Your Life by Stren. And he has this really simple way, I think, to explain the word yoga and the concept of concentration. So let me read to you this couple of pages. The word yoga has several meanings. Among them are union, concentration, a patch, and relation. The word itself comes from the verbal root yug, which means to yoke or join, and is why the word yoga is most commonly associated with the idea of union. The ancient Sanskrit grammarian Panini wrote that there were two ways of defining the word yoga, depending on usage. The first is yujir yog, which describes the action of joining or yoking. For example, the joining of an ox to a cart. In the earliest teaching of the ancient Sanatana Dharma canon, called the Vedas, this was the sense in which the word yoga was used. But for yoga practice, which was classified as a spiritual discipline, in later years during the Upanishadic age, 800 to 500 BCE, the correct derivation is from yuj samado, which means roughly that yoga is a special type of concentration called samadhi. Samadhi means absorption. It is a natural tendency of the mind to become absorbed in things, whether thoughts, objects, work, ideas, a love interest, or goals. When it comes to absorbing the mind in spiritual pursuits, the mind is said to take on the form of that which we can contemplating, and eventually that deep level of absorption leads to the insight and experience of our true nature. In the deepest level of samadhi, one gains knowledge of one's inner being or self. Around 1200 to 2000 years ago, a sage named Patanjali collected the existing teachings on yoga and systematized them in a form known as sutras. The sutra form of authorship means that the author did not create a system and write an original work, but compile the teachings, practices, and methods that already existed, collecting or codifying them under one heading. There are 6 philosophical schools in Hinduism, and each has sutras that contain their teachings. For yoga, the text is called Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and it contains 196 sutras. A sutra is a short sentence, the few words of which have a much larger meaning. Commentaries given on the short forms by other sages and saints fill in details and elaborate on a finer point and of what the sutra is actually saying, because more often than not, they are quite hard to understand at face value. Patanjali explained in his Yoga Sutras that samadhi, the highest state of concentration, is a technical term of the mind's innate ability to become absorbed in its object of contemplation. Patanjali is not the only presentation of yoga, but it is indeed one of the most complete. Other presentations of yoga that came after Patanjali have different end goals, but all of them have one thing in common, namely the idea that in order to achieve your goals, you need to be able to focus your mind. Therefore, Patanjali defines yoga in the second sutra of his book as the ability to selectively eliminate all extemporaneous thoughts or movements that occur in the mind, and to choose where you want your mind to be or where you want to focus it. So yoga is not only about asanas and posture, it is mostly a question of how to concentrate and how not to be all absorbed by everything around you, but to focus in the inner part of you.